Okay, welcome to Dynasty Saturday Night 5. We are live here on Saturday night on the Going for Two Live YouTube channel. If you're listening to the podcast feed, please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. If you're watching us here on YouTube, either now, live, or later, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell for the notifications, and maybe even give us a thumbs up and a comment on the video. I'm Brian Ford here with my co-host, Josh Walker. Josh, how you doing?
Doing great. It's my favorite time of year. I'm still doing football stuff, but I'm starting my first baseball draft. It's good to keep me from getting too caught up on football, wearing myself out on it.
I
But it
feel
also
you.
set me just about a week behind on watching all my tape and stuff. So I got to figure out how to do both. But I'm happy baseball is about to start up.
Yeah, I never figured that out. The more I got into Dynasty and the more I did content, it was just like I just don't even pay attention to baseball really anymore, and I don't play any more fantasy baseball. Last year, my brother texted me. He said, "Hey, Pujols hit 699 and 700," and I texted him back like he's still in the league. So that's kind of where I was at with with baseball. Yeah.
No,
I
yeah,
mean,
that's fair. I didn't realize he was on a team until halfway through the year either. So he kind of came out of nowhere.
yeah. So just for folks who don't know, with Saturday Night 5, we do a list of 5, sometimes 5 total, sometimes 5 each, just as a way to kind of talk about whatever dynasty topic we want to talk about. And tonight, we're talking about rookies and rookie ranks in particular. So going for2.com, the website that we're working with, has posted the SuperFlex rookie rankings for myself, Josh, and Ryan Searfoss. You can go to going for2.com, go to the little rankings thing up top. There's a drop down, go to SuperFlex Rookies 2023, and you'll find the rankings there if you want to look at them and play along. And so what we wanted to do tonight was take a look at some of the discrepancies, maybe, or debates, if you will, between our rankings, and kind of suss them out and talk about them a little bit as a way to move forward with our rookie content this off season. So that's kind of what we're going to do tonight. But before we get into sort of the nitty gritty of the players, Josh, how do you go about your ranking process? How are you evaluating these guys, and are there any factors that matter more than another when you're making your rankings?
Yeah, so it really depends on whether I shoot for upside or shoot for something safe. That just depends on where I'm at in the draft. Early on, I don't think I'm really going to look for someone who has a big bust ability just because he does have that chance of upside, which one of those is Quentin Johnson we'll talk about. But later on in the draft, like late second, third rounds, I'm looking for floor plays, honestly, and someone who I'm not going to take and he's just going to sit on my taxi squad and then I drop him at the end of the year. So it really just depends. Running backs, I look for, guys in the second round. I'm looking for guys who I know will be on the team and get plenty of carries, kind of like guys like Roshan. And then receivers later rounds, I'm looking for upside, even some backs like a Kane. So it just really depends on where I'm at in the draft. Early, I'm looking for safety. Later on, I'll shoot for upside.
Right on. Yeah, I don't know that I have that much of a, early this and late that. A lot of times in the third and fourth, I'm taking those upside swings because why not? The
Yeah.
cost is relatively cheap. I think if I'm in the first half of the first round, floor, and then probably I'm a little more comfortable with ceiling up until maybe, I don't know, the maybe the mid second. I don't know. And then it's kind of a mix. As far as like the way that I've ranked these guys, it doesn't show up on the website, but I rank them in tiers first, and then rank them within the tier. And so I'll bring that up as we go through things. But for example, my first 4 tiers only cover 16 guys, right? But then my tier 5 is 17 through 34. So it's this huge swath of 17 guys that I think, based on draft capital, landing spot, et cetera, could go anywhere from, late first to really, middle third, maybe, depending on some of these things. So
That's what I was just about to ask, if after the draft, if that's going to get spread out a little more, and not such a big tier based on landing spots and stuff.
yeah, it will for sure. Yeah, not only will I shuffle the ranks, but the tiers I think will be a little different as well. And so that may factor into some of the, discussion that we'll have now. As
Yeah.
far as like, what goes into taking a look at each guy, I mean, I'm not going to sit there and grind tape, if you will, as much as some other people do. I mean, I watch it. You kind of can't not watch at least a little bit of it, right? But I mean, there's so many of them, that I don't necessarily watch like a lot of tape on every guy. What I do is I kind of aggregate all information from like all different types of sources. Yes, I watch tape. I also watch people who watch tape, and I watch people who watch tape in front of me and pause it and talk about what's going on the tape.
Yep.
I also will look at analytics, right, and the analytic profiles of the guys. I'll see what other folks, are saying, and I make this huge spreadsheet. And yeah, I do take in. I mean, I know some people don't like to like take in other people's content. I do. I want as many
yeah.
voices as possible, right? Especially because I don't watch Saturday football much. So I have this huge spreadsheet then,
Mhm.
and I have all this information and notes and rankings and, this and that. And I kind of, for each person, I was using the word the other night on Dynasty Fever. It's a mosaic. It's a complete picture, right? And that then goes into the rankings, which I think, for some people, they like a formula, because I think it keeps them some guardrails on it, and there won't be like biases in it and that sort of thing. But you'll hear me tonight say I ranked a guy here because like the NFL is going to see him a certain way. But then when I might talk about a guy like Jalen Hyatt, I'll say, yeah, it sounds like the NFL is going to look at him a certain way, but I just hate the player. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a case by case basis for me.
Mhm.
And I don't know that that's like the cleanest, neatest process that people like. I know a lot of people like, here's 10 traits and here's a grade on each, and then boom, and then that's it. That's just not the way I do things. But that's just kind of how I go about it. It's the way that I'm sort of most comfortable looking at these things. But then again, as a teacher, I teach high school history. I don't like using a whole lot of rubrics either. I think they box me in, and the students just look at things and want to check off things on the rubric and not learn. So I'd like to paint more of a holistic picture of things, and so I'm not really a formula model kind of guy. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I think honestly, and maybe this is just me, but I think if you only do yours, and don't look at any other people and what they see, you're gonna have biases that you don't realize you're having. Because this year, what I did, I went and picked guys I liked, and I didn't really find weaknesses for. And I looked up what other people found weaknesses, and then I translated that into tape. Because sometimes when I just like a guy, it's like rose tinted glasses. I don't look at the things. I don't look that he can't pick up pass block. I just look at what he does. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it really helped me looking at other people who watch a lot more tape than I have time to do, and really take them in. So I think you're doing an injustice if you don't.
Right. Well, I'm glad you're on the same page with that.
Yeah.
Because there are some people who would sort of look down on that kind of a process.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's pay the bills. Today's show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog has it all, leading the industry in best ball leagues, tournaments. They have sports besides NFL, right? So if you're not quite in that hole, it's best ball draft season. I better get started right now. Play some of the other major sports and scratch that itch for a while. If you sign up for Underdog with the discount code GF2, you will get a deposit match of up to $100. So go to underdog.com or the Underdog app, sign up, use the code GF2, start playing, start winning, get that deposit match, and away we go. All right, time to talk about our SuperFlex rookie rankings and sort of some discrepancies that we saw among them. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I'll kick this one off first. It's someone that in the last mock that I don't think it's been published yet for going for two. We all, picked a slot. And I took Roshan second round, I think pick 5.
Mhm.
And that took you and I'm sure other people by surprise. But he's one of the people that I've actually dove into the tape because I was interested seeing some people hype him up and others just bury him. So I wanted to see for myself. I actually looked up his tape right after I did Bijan's because I was at the Texas games right there.
Mhm.
And first of all, he's 6'2", 225. And I saw an article, he hit 22.6 miles per hour top speed, and that put him as one of the fastest players on Texas. And I think at 6'2", 225, I think that's going to translate really well. He's really good in the open field for someone his size, and he's very decisive, good one-cut runner, perfect for like a zone read, zone offense type running scheme. And he's got pretty good hands on dump-offs. Like, I don't know if he'll be out there running routes like McCaffrey or Barkley or some of these other guys do, but he can definitely catch a screen pass, take it off and run, given his ability in space. And I really think he's one of the safer players to draft because he's good at breaking tackles. He's good at everything. He's got the size. And I think once the combine comes, he shows out. I think his stock's going to boost up a little bit. So I'm trying to stay ahead of the curve. And I think he's got one of the higher floors, even if he's in a committee in the pros. But I think he's also a very good 3-down back. And if it weren't for Bijan Robinson, he'd be a household name for sure.
All right. And so where do you have him ranked?
I have him ranked 16th overall, and you have him 30th. And
Right.
Ryan is even higher than me. Ryan has him 13th. So
Right.
he's not here to defend himself, but I know Ryan at least agrees with most of what I said. So.
All right, so I guess I have to say I don't necessarily disagree with really anything that you said, right?
Yeah.
I think he's gonna be a guy who's better NFL than college, right? Simply because there's just not much, on tape because he was Bijan's backup, right? And there's something to be said for a guy who might have been able to transfer and get more playing time and didn't, right? So for me, it's a matter of at this point not just ranking a guy on how much I like the player, but incorporating all the factors, including the fact that he's not an early breakout, that he's a senior. And also, NFL draft capital, how I expect the NFL to see him. Do I think he'll do well at the combine? Absolutely. Do I think he'll do so well at the combine that he's going to vault himself from the now expected 4th round, early day 2, early day 3 draft capital, even 5th? Some people had him into the 2nd or 3rd round NFL draft, day 2. No, I don't think so. And I could see him rising for me within my ranks, right? But I don't know that I'm getting him out of that tier of after say like the mid-second or so. And even then, I just, with all the talent that's there, it's also a matter of, well, who am I going to put him ahead of, right? And I just can't put him ahead of some guys that I have him behind, right? Like, he's kind of clumped in with A-Chain and Izzy for me. We'll talk about A-Chain a little bit later. So, I'm not vaulting him over Darnell Washington in a tight end premium. I'm not vaulting him over, some pretty safe wide receivers like Mims and Parker Washington and Tillman, right? Like, who am I going to put him above, right? And as far as like my running backs, he's in a tier of like running back 7 to 13 for me right now, right? So that's pretty clumped together tightly. He's kind of in the middle of that tier. Spears is at the top of it, and McIntosh is at the bottom of it. But, like I don't know, like, who are some running backs that you have him ahead of that a lot of us don't, I guess is the question.
Yeah, let's see.
Like, do you have?
So I have him one spot ahead of Sean Tucker. I have him ahead of Tank Bigsby, who I think is limited due to not having speed. Tajay Spears, who I might move Tajay Spears up. I have him ahead of, how do you pronounce? I thought it was A-Chain.
A-Chain.
Is that how you pronounce it? A-Chain? Okay. Yeah. I have him ahead of him. I have him ahead of Izzy. Those are the guys I have him above. And that's not even close to me because I think he's going to get vaulted up into at least the 3rd round because he's a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. So it's not like he's just someone who came out of nowhere. He's always had pretty good hype. So I'm just banking honestly on him showing out at the draft combine, running a really good 40, showing good strength, good agility. And
Yeah,
if he
I think he's
doesn't, then I'm
more.
going to move him down my rankings.
I don't know
So
that he's all that like. Well, interestingly enough, he had a really good elusive rating on PFF. He's actually first in the 23 class. Number 2 is Bijan, actually. And
see, I thought Bijan would be higher because that's his
right,
thing, you know.
yeah, yeah. And so people, I think, don't know how elusive he really is. Now, again, that's kind of a PFF grade, right? Because some other folks who watch film say, he's a good straight line runner. He's Latavius Murray, so to speak, right? And there's nothing really all that impressive about that, So I mean, yeah, as with everything, that we're going to talk about tonight, the combine and draft capital will determine a lot. But I see way more upside in guys like Tucker and Bigsby, than I think you do. And I can't have him in the tier with those guys. But we'll see.
Yeah, that's fair. And I do want to say, all these people, there's only one person in this draft class who, no matter what they do at the combine, I'm not moving them. That's Bijan. So
I
if
hear
he
you,
doesn't
yeah.
show out at the combine, I'm willing to move him down and just be like, well, what I thought was going to happen did not happen. So,
I mean, there's guys I won't move because I won't double count. Like
Mhm.
18, we know is going to run in the 4.3s. Okay, like Hyatt is going to burn, right? Like we know that.
Yep.
But
Exactly.
all right, so I get the first one that I'll ask you about is, or maybe defend myself on. I don't know. Is QJ Quentin Johnson? Let's see. He's ranked 7th overall, going for 2. Ryan has him 8. You have him 8. I have him 13. Right. So I have him in sort of that 4th tier of guys. I have him as my wide receiver 4 in tier 2 of the wide receivers. So I have JSN and Addison, and then I have Downs, QJ, and Butte in that next tier of 3 to 5. I put him 13th overall, not just because of where he slots in among like the receivers, right, and the few guys I have ahead of him, right, but 2 things. One, I have a clump of running backs that I mentioned before, my running backs 3 to 6, which are Charbonnet, Tank, Evans, and Tucker, that are in place right now. And I think, depending on draft capital, landing spot, combine, that sort of thing, they're going to maybe differentiate a little bit more, and a couple of them might slide down. So QJ might slide up a little bit for me, right? My thing with QJ is I don't like him at cost, especially, right? Which is another reason why I kind of am fading him a little bit, because I'm not spending the 107, 108, right, on a guy who is pretty raw, right? Is super athletic, but has inconsistent hands and body catches, needs to really work on his route running. It has stuff on tape where you can see like the compete isn't there, like the effort isn't there. And I think that gets reflected in his body positioning and letting smaller DBs, get position on him that he shouldn't be doing, right? I mean, so to me, he's a huge boom bust, right?
Yep.
And I think there's not as like, I was wrong about Christian Watson as the late first boom bust, athletic raw wide receiver last year. But I think what Matt Hicks pointed out to me in the Rookie Big Board Discord is that, and I think he's right about this. It's a fair point. There's probably more room for Watson to grow because he was younger, I think, but also coming from a small school, and sort of, there's more to work with, there's more to develop there. Whereas QJ, he had a chance in a P5 program to really show out, and I mean, yeah, Max Duggan's throwing him the ball, but go down the list of receivers that we like. Zay Flowers having a great quarterbacks,
No, Boston College was terrible on offense.
Right. You could name a bunch that didn't have good quarterbacks, right? So, for me, it's a boom bust thing with QJ. It's a risk at that cost. And it's the stuff that I see that makes him the risk that I kind of don't like. I'm okay taking a safer guy like Downs, even though I can get discount Downs as Marvin Mims later. I'm okay taking a safer guy like Addison, especially if he gets in the right landing spot where there's an alpha on the team.
Yeah.
I'm okay with all those guys more than I'm okay rolling the dice on where I have to take QJ at cost. And the thing is, he's not going to do poorly at the combine, so it's only going to increase the hype, right? And I just, the last thing I'll say is, in the national championship when he got shut down, right? He was facing what's his face? The Ringo, right, on Georgia. He faced a big body corner, right? And what happened? He got shut down, honestly, obviously that's an oversimplistic take on one game, but I think there's a lot to worry about with QJ. So I'm out at cost. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I honestly, me having him 8 is me expecting probably not to get him in any rookie drafts, because I saw a poll on Twitter and I'm actually looking for it now. It was saying, would you rather have JSN or Addison? And everyone in the comments was saying, I'd rather have Quentin Johnson over both of them. That was kind of crazy to me. Yeah. And so I'm trying to find it so I can get it exactly. But I commented, I was like, these results are absolutely astounding. Because, I would take both of those over Quentin Johnson. And like you said, it was one game. But that one game against Ringo, he had a chance to compete against a good team. It didn't look like he even wanted to be there. Like, he got bullied early on and just kind of gave up. And I think that's going to translate to the NFL when everyone's just as big as Keely Ringo and probably faster and better technique. So it's going to be landing spot based on if I move him up. But if anything, I just see myself moving him down as the height keeps going. So I agree with you on that. I think the only reason I have him higher than you is because I'm lower on some of the running backs that you have higher up. So otherwise we'd be a lot closer. And I could be right with you. If those running backs show good and get good draft spots, I'll probably move them up a little, but I'm just a little higher on the receivers in this class.
All right. Who do you want to take next?
I'll go with, let's go with Devin A-Chain. And I want to start by saying I don't think he's going to be like the guy in the backfield. I think he's going to be a committee back. I think he's going to be probably a receiving back, scat back type thing. But I think in the way the NFL is going today, I think there is still value in that where you're getting him, because you're getting a mid-second round, maybe early third. He's got a lead. He's probably one of the fastest players in college football, probably one of the fastest people in the draft. He was a track star, ran 100 yards in 10.14 seconds, which is like incredible.
Yeah. That's really
he shows good vision and he makes good runs. He averaged good yards per carry. I think it was around 6, but his size, he's very small. He's not going to be able to run between the tackles great. But I think his speed, teams, depending on the landing spot, of course, will find ways to use him. And I think he'll be a game changer out of the backfield. Kind of like guys like Tutu Atwell and some of these other guys come in and have good games every once in a while. But I think he'll be used a lot more. Kind of like Naheem Hines, type like that, but just faster. So I'm just banking on him being a solid PPR running back. And where he's going in the drafts, I'm taking him knowing that I think he's going to get plenty of receiving work, a decent amount of carries, but he's definitely not going to be the guy. I don't think he's a 3-down back. So I do want to say that, but I still like him where he's going. And I think NFL teams will figure out ways to keep speed on the field.
Right.
I think that's the only thing that kept guys like Miko Hardman on teams so long, says he can't take the top off of defense. So,
yeah. So you have him at 23. I have him at 29. The gap isn't huge. Right. But it is essentially, for you, theoretically, the end of the second, and for me, sort of the middle of the third. Size with A-Chain, right? For me, like, you can get away with 185 in college, right? And he's probably underrated between the tackles and stuff like that. And you can get away with that in college. Right. Yep. But when you take the 185 and when you take that play strength and you translated it into the NFL, like, he's a guy that I kind of am really scared of. And first of all, if he doesn't get day 2 capital, I'm just like, I'm probably off him completely.
Absolutely.
But remember, if he goes in like the early second, say, NFL, you have to remember that they're also baking into that his value as a special teams, right? I think he was a kick
Yep.
returner or a punt returner, right? So that's also going to, I think, play into the pipe when people say, oh, he's picked like 38th or whatever. Well, okay, fine, right? But he's also a kick returner, and that's baked into the real life draft capital. So, I mean, when I take a look at him and where he's going, and when I can take like a safe wide receiver or tight end, like say, I don't know, Kincaid or who do I have ahead of him as far as like a wide receiver goes? Like Rashee Rice, Marvin Mims, Jalen Hyatt, even, who I don't think is safe, but at that point I'm willing to bet on that upside rather than betting on a 5'9", 185 running back in the NFL. Like, I mean, who knows? Like, could he carve out some kind of Darren Sproles career? Yeah, sure.
That's what I was just gonna say
like,
that.
But if that's if his ceiling is Darren Sproles, then
Well, see, I don't, Darren Sproles he's a really good player, but he didn't have top line speed like Kane has. He might be more quick, like lateral quickness. He might be a little quicker, but he doesn't have that speed. And I think teams will figure out ways to get him on the field, throw him in the slot sometimes, just stretch the defense. So that's all. Yeah. If he, like you said, if he falls out of the second round, this is me banking on him going in the second.
And I think what separates a guy like him from Gibbs is not only, as much as we think right now, 15 pounds, but I think Gibbs is that guy who already runs routes well and has very good hands.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
He plays bigger than his size too.
I'm not saying Ep18 can't be a good receiver, but when I look at a guy like Gibbs and how some people are like, I don't know, he's only 5'11", 200 pounds. Like, wait a minute, this isn't Ep18 we're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. So right now, I have Ep18 kind of in that tier of RB 7 to 13. He's kind of in the middle of it, right above Roschon, sort of recognizing that the NFL will probably like him as a round 2 or round 3 back, and that they love speed, but also, I'm scared of the size,
No, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. All right. Next one I'll go to is, let's see. Let's talk about somebody a little off the beaten path here, that some of our folks listening or watching might not even know about. Jamie saying that Gibbs played wide receiver in high school before he even moved to running back, which also I think explains a lot too about how we see Gibbs. I mean, Gibbs and Bijan, like their route running and their receiving, is like wide receiver quality. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So. I mean, so did Ryan Tannehill though. So I was just saying he played college wide receiver.
So some folks might not know about Tanner McKee, who's getting some love, and I just don't see it. Right. So he's ranked 46 overall, going for 2. Ryan doesn't even have him ranked. I have him ranked 70th, which doesn't show up in the top 50 that I have on going for 2. And
I didn't even see him on there when I looked.
Yeah, you have him ranked 42nd. So I have him as overall 70 in tier 8 in a bunch of people that I am barely even going to look at. He's my 10th rated quarterback in the 4th tier of quarterbacks. He's big and he's
accurate.
Nah, that's what what I mean. Like, he's big. That's like he's an older prospect who who took a year to do like a religious thing. He's got no mobility.
I didn't know that. I would have knocked him down a little bit.
Me too. Right? People don't like his throwing motion is still slow. You see him not really feel the pocket well. You see him not be aware of pressure. You see him struggle past his first read. I just don't get how people are saying he's going to be a 2nd round NFL pick. Like, I've been burned by Davis Mills at Stanford quarterbacks, and so maybe this is me a little biased, but I just don't see the Tanner McKee love. I'm dismissive of him as a prospect. But what am I not seeing?
So this really comes into 2 major things. One, the quarterback position is not good in the NFL. I started some guys that I didn't even know were in the NFL this year in some of my SuperFlex leagues.
It's
So it
pretty
comes to
reaching.
that, and it also comes to what he does have is physical traits that you can't teach and you can't coach. He's got the size. He has pretty good arm strength. It's not elite. He has good ball placement, especially on middle, like routes middle of the field. And the fact that he's accurate and big, I think you can teach him how to be pocket presence. You can teach him some of this other stuff, mechanics, but he is very much a system quarterback. He's a pro style quarterback. He's not mobile, but I mean, and I'm not comparing the two, but neither is Mac Jones. So on the right team, he could find a way to play. I think he's going to sit a year or two before he's definitely a developmental player, but I think he has enough raw tools that on the right team, they could work with him. He could be a backup and probably fill in if someone gets hurt in a few
Right.
years. And that's better than Stetson Bennett and some of these other old dudes who just lived on being on a good team.
I don't know though. I don't know. I think I have him pretty much lumped in with Bennett anyway, but
I have him 2 spots behind Bennett. That's just because they won, and I think he's going to get drafted higher.
But
he shouldn't be a second-round pick, though. Let me be clear. I don't have him like that at all.
You're taking a clipboard quarterback though above guys who you could swing for much better upside in round 3 and 4 of your rookie drafts. You know what I mean? By the way, the update that you made didn't load in my rankings page yet. Let me see if I refresh if it's still there.
I think it's not showing me anything to publish. I did it 12 minutes ago, so it might not have kicked in yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you do. All right. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's where I'm seeing it is like at that point. And when we're talking about a quarterback who's going to get drafted, maybe, I don't know, 4th round tops, right? I just he's kind of not even really on my board. Like he's somebody maybe I'll pick up post rookie draft on the waivers. Okay, yeah, the update is loaded now, right? But, I mean, you have him ahead in your ranks here of Dontavian Wicks, Chris Rodriguez, Andre Yosivas, Tucker Kraft, I just these are just guys that I'm like, I'll take a swing on them in the 3rd or 4th round of a rookie draft before I'm going to take a swing on a clipboard quarterback. But
no, and it's probably I'm trying to be transparent. It's probably me over addressing my biggest weakness in dynasty leagues last year, and that was the quarterback position. In the past, I'd been fine with 2 starters and 1 backup, but this year was completely different. So I might be over adjusting, but I'm willing to take that risk and make sure I have plenty of quarterbacks on my team.
All right. Tell me about the next guy that you want to argue about.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the one receiver I have. I'm going to go with Zay Flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like him, but I also, listening to a lot of other people show me the weaknesses, he's going to be the one that I definitely am watch the most and see draft capital, what team he goes to. But the good things about him, he's dynamic in the open field. He's really good at making people miss. I think that'll translate well to the slot in the NFL. He did mostly play outside receiver, but that is in college, and the DBs are bigger, faster. So I don't think he's going to be as productive on the outside in the NFL. But I do think he'll translate very well to the slot. He has elite quickness and run after catchability that should translate well to the NFL as well. Take a little slant, take it 20, 30 yards as opposed to just not being able to make anyone miss getting tackled. And he's really good at balance in both route running, making cuts, stopping on a dime, especially finding the open spot in the zone. I think he'll be good at. And he's nimble along the sideline. So if he is on the outside, I think he's going to be really good. He's not going to be stepping out of bounds, not being able to catch the ball. So it's really going to depend on draft capital, but I really like this. I like that he can play both outside and in the slot if he has to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to depend on where he lands. I think he's just really good with the ball in his hands, and I think teams will find a way to get him the ball.
Right. I don't necessarily disagree really with any of that. For folks listening or watching, he's ranked 13th in our composite ranks. Ryan has him 16th. I have him 17th, and Josh has him 11th. I'm low man. I'm 6 spots below Josh. And to me, when you're saying 11, you're saying he's a guy I might be comfortable taking in the late first of a rookie draft. And I just can't do that. He's 5'9". He's an older prospect. I think he's just getting helium coming off the good appearance at the Shrine Bowl. And, and that sort of thing. And once these underclassmen enter the chat at the combine and stuff like that, I don't think we're going to be as in love with Zay Flowers anymore, right? I think the idea that the NFL might take him late first is possible, but to me, I think that would just hype him up a little bit more than I would want, right? I'm more comfortable with the upside of, or the positional advantage of Michael Mayer, or the explosiveness of Kayshon Boutte at that price point, the upside of a high draft capital running back. If one of that clump of running backs that I have there gets, good second round draft capital or something like that, I feel better at that than taking Zay than when I can take, Marvin Mims later. I know I keep saying him, Parker Washington, Rashee Rice. Like I'm okay passing on Zay at that price point, but I just think he's a little overrated. He's my wide receiver 6 at the top of tier 3. So it's not like I hate him, but I can't. He's in that tier of that's, he's at the top of that tier I talked about earlier of like 17 to 34, where these guys can go a lot of different ways, and I just don't see myself clicking on him at where I think I'm going to need to get him.
Yeah, and I have him as wide receiver 5, so I'm not that much further off than you. I do have Downs higher than him, who I like more. But yeah, I think it just comes down to, I think some of those running backs can slide up there, and I have him ranked. I don't see, unless he goes like early first round in a draft, which is not going to happen, he's going to stay there if not move down. So I pretty much have him at the highest he's probably going to be. But I like him where we're at right now.
All right, so I mentioned Parker Washington there. Let me go with him next. 25th overall. I'm going for 2. Ryan has him 15th. Ryan's high on him. I have him 25th. You have him down at 35th. So that's a 10 spot difference. For me, he's like I said, overall 25. He's in that 5th tier of guys for me, like getting towards the bottom of it. I have him at wide receiver 11 in tier 3 of wide receivers. The tier that has Zay at the top, he's getting there towards the bottom. He's got pretty good size, right? He's over 200 pounds. He's listed at 5'11", I think, or 6 foot, depending on where you look. So, not bad height. He's approaching that, quote unquote alpha benchmark in analytics. He's a good route runner. He's got good hands. He's very good after the catch as a runner because he's got vision and he's got contact balance. And he's a little bigger than the smalls in this draft, right? So we have like a few, like maybe true alpha type guys, and we got a lot of smalls. Hutchinson, who we'll talk about later, Washington, is kind of like, he's bigger than the smalls and smaller than the bigs, right? So I think, when I'm looking at a rookie draft and I'm saying, okay, am I going to take Parker Washington, or am I going to take Jaden Reed or Raheem Jarrett? I'm gonna take Parker Washington, right? Am I gonna take Parker Washington, or am I gonna take, let's see, in my overall tiers here, am I gonna take him, or am I gonna take A-Chain, whose size I don't like, Izzy, whose draft capital? Look, listen, I love Izzy. I don't trust his draft capital right now. It's 4th, 5th, maybe, right? Am I going to take him over Gray or McIntosh, senior running backs whose draft capital we don't know yet? Yeah, I'm gonna take the receiver. I'm gonna take Parker Washington. So why are you 10 spots lower on Parker Washington?
All right, so the main thing that I disagree with on Parker Washington is I don't think he's a great route runner. And
I said good. I didn't say good.
No, yeah, okay. Well, okay, even good. I don't know if he's good. I think he's average. But given that he's had little experience as an outside receiver and he mostly played slot, he doesn't separate very well. So I'm looking at a slot receiver who can't really separate. He doesn't really have the next gear to like catch the ball and outrun defenders. So I think he's fine, but there's just nothing about him that excites me very well. Like you said, his size is it's just kind of in the middle. I don't want to say he's average. I just don't think he excels at one particular thing. He doesn't have a very big catch radius. He doesn't have super long arms or anything like that. And I think he has room to grow, but I'm just not that excited about him.
I think the NFL is going to like that he does well over the middle, that he does well in traffic, that he's got contact balance.
Yeah, he does have that.
I do think he separates okay. He's not an elite separator, like some of these guys, but also something to remember is, and I know we talked about a lot of these guys play with bad quarterbacks, but Sean Clifford, right? Like, he's, when we're talking about bad quarterbacks, he's bad, right? Like, we don't even really have him, on the radar really as an NFL draft prospect. So something to keep in mind as well. But who are some guys that you have ahead of Parker Washington that I have behind them? Like, I guess guys I mentioned like A-Chain and Izzy.
Yeah. All right, so I have Hutchinson ahead of him, and when you get to him, I'll talk about him more. I think he's got plenty of more room than anybody else we're going to talk about to move up.
Oh, I love Hutchinson.
But I have him one spot behind Hutchinson. I have him behind Dwayne McBride, behind Hooker, Eric Gray, Cedric Tillman, Darnell Washington, and McIntosh.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean,
so I have him behind all of those guys.
Yeah. I don't think that's like completely unfair. McBride's probably the guy that stands out to me the most there. Again, a guy I like, but I just think has, limited appeal for the NFL. But we got to talk about Chase Brown sometime too. We didn't put him on the show sheet, but I have him 14 spots below you, so we need to talk about that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do. I'm sure we'll do another rookie episode.
We got months to argue.
We
about
got time.
This, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So who do you want to do next?
All right, I'm gonna do Sean Tucker next. And when I first did my very first rookie rankings, I had him a lot higher than I have him now. But as I dove into the tape, watched what other people saw, I've lowered him a little bit, and I'm not low on him. I have him at 17. You have him 11. Rhino's at 24. So going for two composites 16. So I think you're basically the high one on him.
Mm-hmm.
And my main knocks on him are I don't see him being a consistently able to run between the tackles, and I think that limits the amount of carries he'll get. He runs with a high pad level, and he doesn't break tackles super well. He's hesitant at the line of scrimmage, and he sometimes struggles reading blocks, which you don't need to do in the NFL. I don't see it. People are saying that like he's super fast, super athletic. I don't think it's going to translate as well to the NFL as other people think. I think he's fast for sure, but I don't think he's elusive enough, and overall just has that top line speed to just really be a big playability every time he touches the ball like some people do. And I think just because he's not super big, I think he's kind of similar to A-Chain, but just has a lot less speed. I think he might be a little bit better catching the ball, but I still think he's going to be limited running between the tackles, and I'm afraid it's going to carry him to a committee where he's not going to be the guy. He's going to be 1A or 1B. Mm-hmm. And I think where he's going, I don't think you're going to return much value where he's going.
Okay. Well, this is difficult for me to have to defend Sean Tucker because I kind of don't like him, or I don't love him as much as some other people do. He started out around RB3 for me, and he's down to RB6, right?
Yep.
So he is at the bottom of that tier of Charb, Tank, Evans, and Tucker. So I'm already kind of below consensus on him, to tell you the truth. Although I hear, the NFL draft community isn't liking him as much as we once thought. So we'll see what happens there. I like his speed and do want to see it at the combine, right? Because like, are you fast versus like ACC players, or are you fast? And so I do want to see that. I do think he does have that athleticism. He is one of these high school track guys, so that might help, right? I do think he has some receiving chops. Not great, but he was a big enough part of their receiving game that you'd like to see that, right? And so he's as high as he is because he's an early declare. He has decent size, like he's between 205 and 210, depending on where you see the measurements. And he's athletic, and I think for now the NFL views him similarly to the way they view other guys in that tier. and view him better than they view guys below him. Like for me, Spears, Izzy, A-Chain. Well, maybe not A-Chain. Spears, Izzy, and Roshan and guys like that. I think some of what we see, as far as the patience and looking weird on the field, might be able to chalk up to Syracuse's offensive line being, not very good. But yeah, no, there is definitely things that he's a little more raw than I expected him to be.
Yeah.
And so I do have concerns. For me, the fact that he's 11 and not 17, I think speaks to that idea that I've got those four clumped together right now, those four running backs, because I can't differentiate among them one way or the other a lot.
Yeah.
Right. And I think once that clump starts to break up, you might see Tucker, for me, float down from 11 into the teens, and maybe somebody like Zay start to float up. Right. But for now, I think I have him in that bucket and of guys that are like not Bijan and Gibbs, but not guys who I think have a lot more uncertainty, like Spears, Roshan, Izzy, guys like then A-Chain. So I think he's kind of right in that pocket for me, and that's kind of why I have him there. It's not easy for me to defend Sean Tucker. I'm not a big fan, but yeah, I mean, I that's kind of why I have him where he's at.
Yeah, I just saw too many tapes of him getting through the line of scrimmage to the second level, and he only had one person to beat, and he just to make a big play, and he just wasn't able to do it. He just got tackled. Like he put a little juke move on, but it wasn't anything to shake a defender. And I just don't know if he has the elusiveness like that to really break off big runs, even if he has the speed to do it.
I think he's got elusiveness in the sense that he's really he loves the cutback way too much when he's running, right? And I think once he gets into that second level, he's trying to beat them with his speed.
So it's like he's in between. Like he doesn't know if he wants to run past them, run over them, or try and juke them.
Yeah. And I think
it looks like he has better jump cuts behind the line of scrimmage than he does when he's running full speed, which is what you need to. You need to shake safeties while you're running full speed to be able. So he's good at shifting his weight and hitting the hole. But once he gets past that, he's
I think he doesn't have the pure speed to beat the guys he thinks he can beat.
Yep.
Right. Because you do see him get caught when you want him to not get caught. So yeah, he's funky, right? I think he kind of needs to decide who he is and what he wants to be. And I think the NFL can help him do that. But because he's so funky, it's kind of like he's at the bottom.
That's why I just didn't know how to rank him, so I just moved him back behind all the guys that were a little easier. So
yeah, I gotta go look back at him more. I'm looking at my notes here on the positives and negatives, and like, okay, so if he goes and runs, I don't know, 4.38 or a 4.42, right? Or that's going to give him a pretty elite speed score based on his what we think his height and weight are. Like, I mean, that's gonna pop. The NFL is gonna like to see that, right? And he had a 15.4% reception share in year 3, which is very promising for a PPR back. So I think he's got a lot to work with, and that's kind of why I have him that high.
Yeah, because
I think raw traits, I think he's got maybe more to work with than some of the guys below him, but I don't know. We'll see. I want to go back and watch him more.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's dependent on where he goes, what type of coaches he have, what type of scheme he's in, to where I'm going to shoot him back up if he runs like that, knowing that they're going to work with him.
All right. Let's talk about a tight end. So Dalton Kincaid, right? He's ranked 22nd on going for 2. Ryan has him 21. I'm the high man at 19. You have him down at 27. So Daniel Jeremiah, I think, was talking about that. He's mocking him into like the late first now. and that the NFL is like falling in love with Dalton Kincaid. I still have him technically as my tight end 2, below Mayer, but that gap is really closing for me. I think the draft capital advantage that Mayer might have, what's going to get baked into that is that he's safe, right, and that he's a more accomplished blocker than Kincaid, right? So Kincaid for me overall is 19. He's in that big tier 5. He's my tight end 2 at the top of that second tier. He's very athletic, possibly the best pass catching tight end in the class. He's rising fast in the NFL draft communities, and I think if he gets on a team where they don't need him to block, like say like he gets on the Lions and they already have Brock Wright to block, or something like that, right? In other words, he's on the smaller side, for a tight end prospect, but he's built for the new NFL, right? That we'll split a tight end out wide in the slot and use a tight end basically in name only as a big wide receiver. I think he can play that role. One concern about him is the age, and that his production came late. He was 2 years in an FCS school at first, and the production came when the other Utah tight end, Quith, something like that, was injured, right? So those are all concerns about Kincaid. But when we're looking at tight ends and the fact that a lot of them have a lot of blemishes, and that the production is pretty low in college, I look at this guy and I say, why not Kincaid? Also, one last thing. I don't know if you built tight end premium assumptions into your rankings. I did, right? So I don't know that we talked about that as a crew, really. So like if it wasn't tight end premium, I'd have him much closer to the 27 that you have. So yeah, that's my case for liking Kincaid. Yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to tight end premium, I just assume a half point. Most leagues I'm in are more than that, but I figure half point's better because it kind of straddles the line if it's not tight end premium or if it is. But even given the tight end premium, I have him where he's at. Just like you said, he was mostly a big slot receiver, and I think only a few teams really want that. I like Mayer a lot more just because I think he can do it all. He'll be on the field more because he'll be blocking. He'll not just be doing that. He'll be in the goal line more. And the one I look to is Kyle Pitts. Last year, Kyle Pitts' usage dropped down to 50%, 60% some games, and that's because they didn't have him in there blocking because he's not a good blocker. So I think he has the chance for that to happen. He'll miss out on snaps because he's not out there blocking. But also, I just see him kind of like Mike Gesicki type, and even he's inconsistent. I think it's very much going to depend on where he goes, who his coach is, and how they're going to use him. Mm-hmm. So if he goes to a good offense that utilizes the tight end well, I'm going to bump him up a good bit because I do think he's up there with Mayer. I think Mayer has just as good as hands, but as far as route running, speed, and quickness, I think Kincaid definitely has the advantage. Yeah. So if he goes to a team that's going to use him right, and I'm confident in that, then I'm definitely going to bump him up. But otherwise, I'm just going to leave him there, afraid he's going to miss out on snaps due to not being able to block very well.
Right on. Okay. Gator J checking in. Gator, we love you. Saying good evening, fellas. Thanks for hopping on and hopping in the chat. Josh, your next guy.
Ooh, I'm on the last guy here. I think I am.
So I'm going to go with far into the show. Yeah, we're having too much fun. Bonus. Bonus. Flies, we need to do Mims. We need, not that there's a big gap there. We need to do Chase Brown. Come on, bonus content.
I'll save that for a bonus episode.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with Tyjae Spears.
Yeah, let's talk about Spears.
A lot of this is me not wanting to buy into the Senior Bowl hype, making that dude look absolutely ridiculous running a route. But I also think it'd be foolish not to bake that in. So I just really don't see him being a 3-down back. He showed really good vision and good running ability, but I don't know if that's going to translate to the NFL, especially the way teams are shifting to committees and having a first and second down back and bringing someone on for third down. He has a high pad level at times, and I think he's going to be relying on outside runs. So I think when he's in there, teams will start to prepare for that. He doesn't pass block well, and I just think he's going to be a complimentary back.
Mhm.
And they're not saying there's not value in that. Teams are using receiving backs a lot more these days than they have. But until I see where he's going and know that he's going to be like the guy or 1A or 1B, I'm just going to be a little bit behind consensus. But I do think he has a lot of ability. He's really athletic and he's really good catching the ball. So,
Yeah, Spears is tough for me. Like
Mhm.
I'm the I liked him before it was cool thing.
Yeah.
Like I knew who he was because I play a little C2C before he even blew up in the bowl game against USC, right? And so it is tough for me because I do like him, and then I do see this post Senior Bowl hype, and I'm like, gosh, now I'm one of the people that's hyping him up, I wrote an article about him on goingfor2.com. So yes, there is hype, but for me, it's not all noise.
Yeah.
I love Spears, but I love him in context, right? He's at the top of tier 3 for me. He's running back 7, right? I have him ranked. Where do I have him ranked? Like 18th or 19th, right? And you have him I have him 18th, and you have him at 22, and so does Ryan. So the gap isn't huge, and I don't have him up as like a late first round pick. I think he will settle back down into a late second round pick after we get through the combine and of course the draft as well. But I think he's got a real good chance to be a round 3.
Yeah.
Day 2 pick in the NFL. And I think he can be a 3-down back, but I think he can be a 3-down back in the way that Tony Pollard can be a 3-down back. Like Tony Pollard can be a 3-down pack, but I want Tony Pollard to have a bruiser on the team with him. You know what I mean? And I think that's the way that I see Spears, as like Tony Pollard, DeAndre Swift. They can be 3-down backs, but they're going to need a bruiser probably with them. I think he's got a well-rounded skill set of running and receiving, as you said. He's fast, but he's also very agile. He's very good with yards after contact too. And he's scheme diverse. He played about 50% of his snaps in zone, 50% in gap. I did see him bounce runs outside a little too much. I think maybe a little overconfident in that speed, or a little bit underconfident in what was developing in front of him. Playing for Tulane.
Didn't trust his eyes.
Yeah. And I think people are overstating the pass pro. Somebody who I really trust on this sort of thing, that sees it much better on tape than I do, says that he doesn't have like the strength, right? But he's got the willingness and the technique, right? Which is more than a lot of these running backs have coming in.
Yeah.
Basically, like I joke that like when you're doing your spreadsheet on rookie wide receivers, you can just paste in remains to be seen how he does against press coverage for all of them, and then just delete the ones that doesn't apply to, because that's easier. You can with rookie running backs, you can put in needs to work on pass pro with all of them, and then like delete the ones that are right. So I'm not like super concerned with that, but I'm also like, but I'm not saying it's like it's nothing, right? He's not as well developed as maybe a couple other prospects are with pass pro there. So like again, I like him a lot, but I'm not like saying he's RB4, right? I'm saying if he can get late day 2 capital, I'll take him mid to late second round of my rookie draft as a guy who I think won't get 220 touches, but will be effective when he's on the field and be efficient. Last thing I'll say, I just saw a chart the other day that plotted yards after contact per attempt with yards per route run, right? And like on like the very good end of things, like the Travis Etienne in
top
college,
right.
The top right, like the quadrant you want, Spears was there, right? So just something to keep in mind. And he is a senior, right? But at the same time, and his medicals will be important too, right? He busted his ACL in 2020, but like if his medicals are okay, I'm okay, because for me, that's a guy who would have been an early declare, would have played 3 years and come out early if he didn't blow that ACL. So like it's a little different for me than a normal like senior prospect coming out. Yeah.
So I like that Tony Pollard comp. My only drawback to players like that, they do rely on big plays to get the touchdown numbers, because I think when they kind of like DeAndre Swift, when they get close to the goal line, they're going to turn it over to the bigger guy, and that could hinder his touchdowns. But I think he's going to have no problem racking up yards in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Although I will say that Swift is being used poorly, right?
Oh, absolutely. I will never disagree
So,
with that.
you know,
It's almost offensive the
yeah,
way he's being used.
right. All right, I guess I'm on my last guy, right?
Yep.
And we'll go with my boy. Like, this is like, if there's a my guy in this class that I just love more than everybody else, and there's very little reason for it, it's Xavier Hutchinson, or AKA Hutch, as I call him. We're tight like that.
Y'all are
He's
close, yeah.
yeah. It's my nickname for him, right? So he's ranked 27th on Going for Two, 25th by Ryan, 22nd by me. I'm high man, and you have him all the way down at 34. Now I will admit that I am significantly above consensus on Hutchinson, right? I see him going in mocks, and I look at his ADP, and it's like mid third to early fourth, right? So for me to have him 22nd, I get it, right? I'm high on him. He's in that big tier 5 of 17 to 34. He's my wide receiver 8 in tier 3, sort of the third guy down. We got Flowers, Rushy, Rice, and Hutchinson. For me, he's a well-rounded, safe prospect. He's got good hands. He separates. He runs his routes well. I have a feeling that NFL front offices are going to look at him, and he's going to be a riser. They're going to say he's a guy we can plug in. He knows how to play football. He's been a big part of an offense with poor quarterback play, and they're going to react to that, the lack of bigger guys in a class full of smalls. And I think he's going to start to float up. As long as he doesn't completely shit the bed at the combine, I think he's going to be a riser. And he may not rise to where I have him, but I think he's going to rise relative to where he is now. Because I think the NFL is going to say, that's Jacoby Myers. That's Keenan Allen, right? That's a guy that we're going to like pepper with targets. And for us in fantasy, that's PPR, right? And
Yep.
and so I'm excited about Hutch, but it's like he's the type of guy I get excited for because he's safe. I'm risk averse, right? So I'm excited about the high floor here, right? And if I can get Xavier Hutchinson early third round of a rookie draft, my pants are get tight because I know that he doesn't really have bust in him, right? He's a guy that I can plug in as my wide receiver 3 or 4 on my team, start him in a bye week, right? When somebody else is hurt or something too, and I'm fine with Xavier Hutchinson. So I like, that, and maybe that's a guy what I was saying before, how like it's a mosaic. There's like some guys I'll say the NFL view of him matters more, like Roshan, and some guys less, like A-Chain, right? This guy is with Hutch, it's the floor, the safety is carrying him, and not the ceiling. Where I might say the ceiling is carrying another guy that I'll rank. So why so low with my boy Hutch?
Okay, so honestly, the main reason is before about 20 minutes before the show, because I've been really busy lately, I haven't gotten to watching his tape yet. I saw he
Okay.
did a write up, and I haven't read that either. So the only reason I have him down here is because I haven't gotten to him yet. But from what I did watch, I watched a quick little 5-minute tape of a few. I'm seeing some Michael Thomas in his
Okay.
as a player comp, and I hate Michael Thomas because he's for the Saints and he kills the Falcons, but he's a really good NFL player.
Yeah, I can see
And
that.
at first, my knock on him was he's not athletic and he can't get open, but he gets open with his savvy, smarts, knowing the zone. And I think that's something that's very hard to teach. And I think the fact that he has that already puts him up with like guys like Keenan Allen, he's not going to run past any cornerbacks, but he's constantly getting 6 to 10 receptions every game, especially on third downs, and he's a quarterback's best friend. I kind of see that kind of happening with Hutchinson. So I'm definitely going to move him up. I probably won't move him up as high as you, but it'll definitely be between 25 and 28 probably once I actually dive into the tape. But I do like him, and I think he's going to be, like you said, one of the safer bets, and I do like that, especially in, like you said, the third round.
Can't guard Mike is in the comps that I have besides Myers and Keenan Allen for Hutch here on the Going for Two website when I was writing up the
See,
prospect.
I don't know if
profile.
I'd put him as Keenan Allen because I don't think he's as good of a route runner as Keenan Allen as far as like having a full route tree, but I think he can get there because he's, like you said, he's a rookie, 6'3". I think he's going to
Well,
be really
he
good.
came in a hair over, he's a hair under 6'2". The Senior Bowl measurements were below his listed Iowa State height. So, but
I was looking at that. Okay.
yeah,
I was looking at the Iowa State.
Mhm. Yeah.
But still,
Yeah.
I like him more than my ranking says, and I'm going to have to adjust that here in the next few days.
Speaking of adjusting, based on our conversation tonight, let's see if there's anybody that we'd be willing to adjust. Did the other person convince us? I'd say that I'm open to maybe sliding Kincaid down, just because there's just other higher ceiling guys I have ranked around him. Yeah. And I'm probably open to bumping Roshan up a bit because I want to like him more. I want to rank him more.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm as high on him as you are. I think he has more limitations, I think, than you do. But I'd have to vault him over A-Chain, Izzy, to get him into that. And I don't know if I'm there yet, but I'm open-minded. Anything that you're willing to reconsider?
Yeah, I'm willing to reconsider. Definitely Hutchinson, especially hearing how high you are. I'm going to read the write-up you did on going for 2. I have that planned for tomorrow. Definitely move him up a little bit, and probably honestly move McKee back some. I realized I was a little overzealous in all my quarterback rankings, so I'll probably move Hooker and Stetson Bennett back a little bit too. Honestly, Will Levis as well. I have him at 12. I'm bumping down in the 20s because I don't like him.
Yeah, but I don't know that I would bump him down that low because, you have to think about,
draft capital. He's going to go first
draft
round.
cap, right? Yeah, he's and what he's going to cost in a rookie draft and that kind of thing. I don't know that I would bump him down that low, but yeah, I think I have him at 16, right? Which. And some people are pulling them off at 105, 106 in rookie drafts now. So
hell no. I'll take Richardson at the 7, but Richardson has complete raw upside that typical like Justin Fields. He's not quite as good a thrower, but I'll take a shot on guys like him. But Will Levis he's literally Mayo.
And Will Levis is 3 months older ish than Trevor Lawrence, right? And so he's you know what I mean? Not only old as a prospect, but he's got a lot to unlearn. Lawrence, was always a better prospect, right? But he's 2 years into the NFL, messing with NFL defenses, and here comes Will Levis putting mayo in his coffee and eating a banana with the peel on, going, "Hello, guys, let me throw an interception." And I just don't get it, man. I just don't get it. Jamie, a lot of people are making this comp of Will Levis as a val. Listen, Josh Allen's arc
that's still hyping him up too much.
Is an outlier, right? If you want somebody with Josh Allen's ceiling in this draft, and even higher, maybe, especially on the rush side, it's Anthony Richardson.
Oh yeah,
and I don't love Richardson, but
nah.
If you're asking me at current cost, do I want Richardson or Will Levis? I'll take Richardson 100 times out of 100.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
I can't wait for the leagues where I kind of tempted to draft Levis, knowing that guys like him later, and then try and trade him for Anthony Richardson after the draft and all that stuff happens.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think I'll ever draft Levis in rookie drafts, but if I do, I'm gonna try and trade him for Anthony Richardson.
I think I could picture myself taking Levis. One time I actually did take him already. I took him in the psycho draft with Tom and the Full Tilt guys, where the rookies are mixed in. For me, it was an embrace the chaos pick, right? Like I said, I think my quarterbacks were, who were they? Dak and somebody else. And I said, let me take Levis as my QB3, embrace the chaos, right? Just because I'm going to do that, right? But as far as a regular draft, when I'm in a rookie draft, say I'm sitting there at 105, 106, right? Levis got top 10 capital in real life. I'm going to try to trade out to somebody because I think somebody wants Levis, right? But if I can't, I'll take Levis and then flip them later on for something I like better to a believer, right? Mr. Scampers, I don't know. Listen, I don't know if you're trying to make fun of me for liking Davis Mills too much for a year and a half, but flipping
Just take Tanner McKee. You'll be
Levis
fine.
for Davis Mills, I think I need to sprinkle a little bit more on the Mills for Levis than that. But thank you for checking in, Mr. Scampers, our favorite listener who has the name of a cat. So let's land the plane here and wrap things up. So please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review if you're listening to the Going for Two live audio feed. If you're here on YouTube, please make sure you subscribe, like, turn on those notifications, make some comments. We love you, so please love us. Time for plugs. Josh, where can we find you and your work?
Yeah, you can find me contemplating moving CJ Stroud over Bryce Young on Twitter at Rotonaut, ROTONAUT. I'm actually getting back into writing some articles for Going for Two, finally get my mental health and motivation back on track. So I'm going to hopefully be doing that over the off season. And yeah, I'll have rankings, hopefully some off-season articles. I'm going to do a few rookie write-ups that I stole from Brian. So yeah, you can find it all at goingfor2.com. You can find us in the Discord. We actually have our own channel now. So if you join the Going for Two Discord, just join and ask us questions.
Mm-hmm. And you can
tell us we're stupid. That's fine too.
Well, I mean, no, don't tell us that. Like,
I'm sensitive. Yeah, I'd cry.
All right, so please make sure that you go when you go to the goingfor2.com, that's where you'll see the little purple thing for the Discord. That's also where you'll see the rookie profiles that Josh mentioned. He's going to be doing Roshan, and who was the other one that you
McIntosh and Josh Downs.
Those right on.
Three
okay.
I'm going to be.
All right. And I've done a few already. Just Marvin Mims just posted today. I've done Hutch, Rice, Spears, Charbonnet, Darnell Washington. That might be it. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think Bigsby. I worked on Tank Bigsby. So I forget who I'm doing next, but I think Dwayne McBride is the guy I'm doing next. But anyway, yeah, go for goingfor2.com. You can see it there. It's the off season now, so I'm going to be writing a lot more. You can check me out on Twitter at ffjunkie_. My dynasty rankings and my rookie rankings are on goingfor2.com, just like Josh's. You can, take a look there and then roast us in the Discord on Twitter and elsewhere. But no, actually, don't roast us because, we're good people. You can give us cool feedback, but do it politely. None of that smug nonsense that is way too much smugness in the fantasy space these days, right? Josh, anything else for the crowd?
Yeah, go Irish, go Braves. I'm ready for baseball season to mix in with some football, so I'm not just getting bored with rookies for months and months and months.
I hear you, man. So, I hear you. Yeah. Well, we got free agency coming up, so that'll break it up a bit. Yeah.
I'm excited to see the running backs. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We probably have to do a show on that once that happens.
Oh yeah.
All right, folks. That's a wrap. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.